Ayan, nagsimula tayo guys. Hi guys, guten Nacht, guten Tag, depending on what time zone you're in. Pasensya na guys, grabe pala yung time zone difference natin. I was thinking around 5 to 6 hours kanina lang chinek ko. Gumising tayo ng 6 a.m. after a very very long flight via Istanbul. Pag gising ko kanina ng 6 a.m. guys, napansin ko, hapon na dyan sa Pilipinas. So, 7 hours difference pala tayo. Siguro this is because of the adjustments. Alam niyo na, may mga 1 hour up and down adjustments na nangyari. So, pasensya na. So, from 6 a.m. until 1 p.m., humahabol lang ako sa trabaho. Back and forth. And then, of course, during the breakfast naman, after breakfast, meron tayong chance na catch up tayo with some of our friends, including someone whom we're all expecting to be the foreign minister of arguably the most important country in ASEAN, right? So very good friends. On a catch up tie about politics across the region, and then of course, yeah, we're just next here sa Brandenburg, so I had to go around and check also sa yung Berlin Wall and go around with my friends here. Um, Meron din silang parang cherry blossom version nila dito sa Germany. So the winter is withering away, but for some reason mukhang mas maaga sa Japan yung blossoming, or at least mas clear yung blossoming din sa Japan kasi last week pa lang, di ba? Pansin niya sa Nagoya pa lang kita ko na nagblossom lahat. Hindi pa ganito ka the transition out of winter sa Germany. Now, speaking of Germany, kaninang haba-haba ng usapan namin sa kaibigan ko dito, si Ayasan. And, we talk about Germany, how, well, boring their politicians and politics is. In a way, kung titignan mo yung mga leaders nila sa Germany, whether it's Angela Merkel, whether it's Olaf Scholz, and later on, actually, arrange meeting kami, nagpapunta kami sa office of the Chancellor of Germany with some of the other global thought leaders, mamaya, God willing, inshallah. I mean, the thing is super boring yung mga leaders sila dito. But at the same time, kung titignan mo yung mga yung bansa na yan, Alemania, it's a very, very well organized society. It's a very interesting society, if I can put it in many ways. It's now the third largest economy in the world, Germany. So they just overtook Japan last year as the third largest economy in the world. It doesn't have the fanciness, let's say, of Paris. If you look at Berlin, it doesn't have that beautiful climate or weather that you see in parts of Italy or Spain, etc. But Germany was always a very impressive country to me. It has its own imperfection, mahabang usapan na yan. I have no illusions about shortcomings of the system in Germany and on all levels. Having said that, parati yung impressive sa akin is how boring works, right? That if you look at Germany, they have had very boring chancellors or politicians in charge, but those boring leaders got things going, right? Got things going. They always get criticized for not being assertive enough, for not being flashy enough, for not being, I don't know, innovative enough. But if you look at Germany over the past 10, 20 years, it has steadily solidified its position as the economic engine of Europe. And now it's the third largest economy in the world. Even though sobrang laki nung shock ng war in Ukraine sa Germany. So ang laki ng contribution ng Germany, both on the economic front but also on the military front, sa Ukraine war. In fact, my worry was baka sobrang lamig pa rin dito sa winter dahil nung isang year after the Ukraine war, dahil sa hidwaan ng Alemania at Russia, alam niyo, tumaas ng sobrang laki yung presyo ng gasolina dito, natural gas, which they use for heating. So I was wondering what's the situation here. But mukhang medyo nag-stabilize na yung German economy. Now, interesting itong hotel na sinistay natin. Malapit din siya sa Russian Embassy. Laki ng Russian Embassy dito kasi itong area sa Brandenburg, among others, used to be part ng Eastern Germany and part of essentially Eastern Europe and the Soviet blocs. Ang laki ng Russian Embassy dito. And interestingly, on the way to hotel kahapon, nakita ko ang haba-haba ng pila from one street to the other street. And I was wondering what's going on there. And pagtingin ko, Like, wait, akala ko nung nasa ka to Taylor Swift event, bakit ang haba-haba ng pila? And pagtanong ko, yung pala, ito yung pila sa labas ng Russian embassy. And interestingly, as you know, yung asawa yata ni Navalny, si Yulia Navalnaya, she actually was there. Kasi nakita ko yung picture niya sa Twitter together with other demonstrators and protesters. And pagtingin ko, like, wow, interesting. Sabi ko, wait lang, parang yun ang nakikita ko kanina. So apparently there was a huge protest here outside the Russian embassy. As you know, Russia, ayan, si Picaboo, mga tuta ng China at Russia ata yung mga to, mga Kremlin boys. Um, so I was wondering, like, what's going on? Why the huge? So as you know, there was a quote unquote elections in Russia, and of course, alam natin sinong nanalo, 'di ba? Parang mga ano yan, parang halos malapit na maging North Korea, 'di ba? Alam mo na parati sila nanalo. It's just a question of whether 80%, 90%, 100%, 99%. So apparently, I thought yung mga pumipila diyan ay bumoboto. And of course, if you were to vote in Russian elections, essentially you're voting for Putin because it's not an election, it's a selection process. But it looks like that was actually demonstration and protest. And interestingly, just outside the embassy, there was flags of Ukraine. There were all of these, flowers and all of these things na in dedication to the victims of wreaths, in dedication to the victims of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So it was an intense environment, and ang dami mga pulitze, mga German police all over the place to make sure na walang gulo. So even if ang daming tao dumalaw, very tense yung environment. This is Ukraine, Russia, among others. Walang gulo, very peaceful and all, which tells you, I mean, it's interesting. Even the protest culture dito ay relatively peaceful. And to consider Berlin is actually kind of a hip, cosmopolitan city, right, compared to, I don't know, Munich or other major cities dito sa Germany. Now, having said that, of course, I hope to get to know more about yung conversations between President Marcos Jr. was here last week, and the German Chancellor and officials. Let's see kung may mamaritas tayo makuha dito. Because I want to know ano exactly ang naging exchanges pagdating sa issue ng ICC. I don't know about the Americans. As you remember dun sa interview natin with Attorney Carranza, sabi na suspicious siya ng mga Americans actually also ayaw sa ICC because last time we checked, di ba, alam niyo naman Amerika, pati sila, hindi sila party sa ICC at nung time na once the ICC wanted to go after yung mga maling ginagawa ng mga Amerikano dyan sa Afghanistan, sa Iraq, and mga others, sinanction pa nila yung mga judges ng ICC, right? So, the US is not necessarily a paragon of international law. So I wondered, what about Germany? Because Germany is now the third largest economy. So technically speaking, among the Philippine friends and allies, is the second largest economic power, right? Because number one is US, number two is China, number three is Germany, number four is Japan. So Germany is potentially the second largest friendly economic power to the Philippines. Anong mga leverage nila kay BBM? Ano sinabi nila kay BBM? And considering how issues of human rights are important to Germans because of their historical experiences, because of their sense of historical responsibility to never forget yung mga ginawa nilang mali nung panahon ng Second World War, yung mga grabing Holocaust, grabing mga horrible things they did to the Jewish folks in Germany, among others. So I wondered what they were having in terms of their conversation with BBM, considering if you look at BBM, I said all good things about his foreign policy so far, although I also have my doubts about, I hope he doesn't tilt too much into the US, orbit. Because, of course, ang Amerika naman talaga interest nila yung is protektahan yung Taiwan di ba? And I'm yet to see America giving the Philippines yung mga advanced weapon systems na kailangan ng Pilipinas. Puro mga medyo alanganin pa ako Mga para mas maganda pa nakuha natin mga weapon systems sa India or South Korea, to be honest, di ba? Now, going back, and my goodness, Trump could win soon, so ibang gulo na naman yan. Although alam ko maraming mga Trump fans sa Philippines and mga Filipino-Americans, but mahabang usapan yan. Now, going back here, sa Germany, yeah, I wonder what was the conversation with Marcos Jr. behind the scenes, because of course on the record everyone is very friendly, everyone is very respectful, etc. But ang tanong is, behind the scenes, what was the kind of conversation going on there? Because if Germany is kind of a democratic system built on the principle of never again, right? Anong sinabi nila sa isang Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na never, never, forget about apologize, forget about justice or restitution. He doesn't even acknowledge yung mga grabing mga human rights violations, not to mention total economic disaster that happened during the Marcos dictatorship. So I wonder what was going on behind the scene. It's not like Germany needs the Philippines. They're a massive economy. They have huge, huge trade and investment relations with our neighbors. Malaysia, a lot of if you buy a German car in the Philippines, most likely it was assembled in Malaysia, right? Um, they have huge business relations with Singapore, with Thailand, with Vietnam. Obviously, Vietnam is huge. So Philippines is not even top five, I think, to them. Yeah, it's we're like probably number six in ASEAN at best to them, and that's just in ASEAN, right? So they don't need us that much. Obviously, German companies want to invest more in the Philippines, and katulad ng pinag-usapan natin nung isang araw, if you look at it actually, Lufthansa is looking at expanding its participation dun sa mega hindi maga Trump kasi medyo scam yan. Mega airport na gagawin sa Pilipinas. Hopefully in 5 to 10 years, medyo maayos-ayos na yung infrastructure natin with subway and everything coming on. So, but yun nga dito sa Germany, it's unthinkable na they will do to their history what Marcos is doing to the Philippine history. In fact, the Philippine history is even more recent in the sense that yung mga maling ginawa ng Marcos dictatorship, although it was never as horrible as the fascist regime that took over dito sa Europe during the Second World War. Nevertheless, the idea of not coming clean on the past, not accepting the past, this is crazy. This is unacceptable in Germany, right? As far as the ruling, as far as the regime is concerned. So I wonder what was the conversation there with Marcos, and not to mention also in the ICC issue. On the record, Chancellor Scholz raised the ICC issue and made it very clear as far as Germany is concerned, human rights is very important and accountability is very important. But yung sagot ni BBM was very non sequitur, very parang tangential in the sense na parang he just said, well, I also believe in human rights in the sense that hindi ko itutuloy yung bara-bara war on drugs ni Digong. But in terms of ICC, he still reiterate the same blah blah position, which is, walang jurisdiction ng ICC. An argument that is legally speaking for any real lawyer, forget about lawyer, anyone who has a basic understanding of international law is a nonsensical argument, to be honest. Yung mga ano lang, yung mga yung mga Duterte holdovers, yung mga government people lang iba ng nag-maintain ng sobrang questionable position na yan. But anyway, let's try to find out more about this. But going back to the Philippines, my goodness, ang layo natin. I mean, we call ourselves a democracy. This country also calls itself as democracy. Pero ang layo-layo ng level of rule of law sa Pilipinas kumpara sa mga ibang mature advanced democracy, including democracies which have very, very bad history, right? Katulad ng Alemania. Now, pag-usapan natin ito kasi anong petsa na? Matatapos ng March 18 na po. Right? March 18 na po. And, oof. And hanggang ngayon, parang wala pa rin, hindi pa rin na-arrest yata si Quiboloy, right? I wonder if you're the Quiboloy style kind of person dito sa Alemanin, what would happen to them. But anyway, sino to? Bakit kasama si Salvatore Banalo? Ano to? Na-shock ako dyan. Okay, anyway. Ibang usapan yan. But going back to this, distract ako. Anyway, going back to this, ito yung update na nakita natin. So, this is the news that came out actually 10 minutes ago. Just 10 minutes ago. And this is by Rizzo Ontiveros. Right? Sabi ni Senator Rizzo Ontiveros na kailangan na ito, immediate issuance of arrest warrant against Quiboloy, saying the latter's response to the Senate panel show cause order was nowhere near satisfactory. Right? So, eto na. Sinasabi ni Rizzo Ontiveros satisfy na namin yung mga blah 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 na show cause order pag ganun even though everyone would say like, what? Like, bakit kailangan pa yan? Hindi naman kailangan yan. But anyway, having said that, ito yung position ni Rizal Antiveros. No? We, including my legal team, immediately read through and assessed the documents carefully, mindful of due process for the accused, but also with a view to ensuring that the Senate as an institution is protected from dilatory tactics of parties. Isa pong naging maliwanag sa amin pag-review. His explanation is nowhere near satisfactory. They did nothing but rehash previous arguments they made for not attending our Senate hearings. So ito in response to the Senate show cause order issued last week. Si Zubiri, di ba? Kiboy's lawyer, Melanio Balayan, urged that the contempt order be set aside and deny the issuance of warrant of arrest against Kiboy. Recall the subpoenas and discuss the response to show cause order at the Senate plenary, which again, like, sila pa yung demanding na kailangan padalhin sa plenary na talagang Karen ang dating ng mga ito, di ba? But Ontiveros reiterated that the probe is conducted to fill the gaps in the law. Ayon sa kanya, again, we have never claimed to be the judge. Hindi po hukom ang Senado. That's true. A Senate resolution has no effect and force of law and can make no such legal determination of guilt or deprive anyone, including Kiboy, of life, liberty, or property as a result of its material averments or findings. So in short, ang sinasabi ni Rizal Ontiveros is that, yes, we agree na eventually decisions on matter of guilt and conviction accordingly cannot come from the Senate. This has to come eventually from the judiciary, right? Sa isang korte. So what she's doing here is uh, she's trying to help find out what is really going on here, what kind of abuses may have happened. But hindi po hukom ang Senado. It doesn't have that final power to convict anyone. But if hindi ka nagpakita sa Senado and you ignore the Senate or nag-show ka ng contempt sa Senate, may mandato ang Senado to come up with a warrant for us if you ignore the subpoena, right? So may power ng ganito even though it's not a judiciary. Likewise, Hontiveros cited the 2000 case of Romero et al. Versus Estrada and Senate Committee on Labor and Employment kung saan yung Korte Suprema ay nagsabi na despite the pendency of a criminal or administrative case, the Senate is allowed to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation. So yun po yung precedence, yun po yung legal precedence na minimension ni Riza Antiveros to argue that actually yung sinasabi nila Amy Marcos, yung mga sinasabi nila Robin Hood, yung mga hanash nila na hindi pwede sa Senate yan, dapat lang sa korte yan, yung mga ganyan hanash nila. Or sabi ni bakit? Kaibigan natin yan. Hindi mo gagawin sa kaibigan. Yung mga ganyan type na senador, alam mo naman sino mga yan, mga nakatingin sa no. Sabi ni Rizal Antiveros, walang basihan yan because we clearly have a precedence whereby the Supreme Court itself made it clear na hindi dapat sagabal sa Senate conduct of an inquiry in aid of legislation, even though pending yung isang criminal or administrative case. Of course, as we know, there's the SMNI angle, and as we know, of course, there's also the DOJ angle here, as the DOJ tries to, of course, go after the DOJ tries to go after the alam niyo na, di ba? Siguro may coordination din sila sa FBI, and the United States also provided the kind of evidence necessary. Now, this is not an endorsement of American foreign policy or anything like that, but if there were crimes really committed in the United States, there is always an extradition treaty. Now, considering all this, once again, I request for the Senate President to issue an arrest order against Apollo Quiboloy. He must show up. He must respect the institution of the Senate. So Hontiveros is now, cranking up the sorry na mahabang flight. She's cranking up pressure on Zubiri. Because as I said, ang suspecha ko is si Zubiri, wala akong alam dyan, hindi ako dyan. And I'm thinking also Zubiri is waiting for BBM to consult with BBM, for BBM to be fully in town, to make sure na hindi si Sara Duterte yung officer in charge or acting president, di ba, sa Malacanang, just to make sure, siguro yun ang hinintayin niya in terms of timing. Nakabalik na ba si BBM? Or dito pa rin sa Europe? Anyway, so, yun yung suspecha ko na medyo pa safe yung iba dyan. But Risa is saying like, okay na, na-satisfy na. But yung show cause order, lahat, gone through all of that. Ano na, sa mga kasamahan ko sa Senado, wag natin hayaan malitin niya ang ating iningatan institusyon. Kung hindi po tayo manindigan sa kanyang tahasang pambabastos sa Senado, ewan ko na kung saan tayo pupulutin na to, 'di ba? So, yun yung point na, 'di ba? Na grabe naman. Naalala mo guys yung 17 conditions. At yung condition number 17 talagang binastos talaga. Binastos talaga yung mga tao dyan sa Senate. And then number 14, yung mga naghanap ng five-star hotel. Tapos pakainin pa daw yung mga ano niya. That's complete contempt, right? Parang tinitroll talaga ang Senado. So, ang point ni Rizon Tiveros is that, hayaan ba natin na gaganin lang tayo? Now, of course, I understand that, we are talking about a Senate that has, just the types of Robin Hood Padilla et all there. But nevertheless, this is supposed to be the highest chamber of the nation. So sana naman medyo konting respeto, 'di ba? Sana naman may konting respeto. But so, yun yung position ni Ontiveros na ano ba talaga? Hindi tayo pwedeng ganun, 'di ba? Nevertheless, in a Viber message sa reporters, sabi ni Senate President Zubiri, he will review Kibuloy's response and decide that there's one issue as soonest. Right? So, ito eh. Sabi ko nga sa inyo eh. Ito yung hanash. I think this is exactly what I've been saying. Parang hindi ko na kailangan basahin yung sabihin nila. Alam ko na yung sasabihin nila. Di ba? Ito. Sabi ni Zubiri, I just got back last night from the President's trip to the Czech Republic. I shall review the reply of Pastor Kiboy and Senator Riza so we can give a decision soonest. Alright? Maybe, the conversation, BBM is returning and all of that. Okay, so, ito yung sinasabi niya. Alright? Ito yung sinasabi niya. Now, in the meantime, dyan naman sa lower house, si Congressman Rog Gutierrez, who filed a House Bill 9710 seeking to revoke yung franchise ng SMNI, said it would be better to let the Senate issue the arrest order against Quiboloy. So, may mga tao dyan sa Congress na nagsabi na eventually we have to ultimately defer to the Senate on this, especially mabibigat yung mga kaso dyan sa mabibigat yung mga issues na pinag-usapan dyan sa Senado. It's not only about SM9, it's also about the personal conduct of the leadership of yung religious group ni Kiboy. So, ang position ng ibang mga congressmen who are leading the whole SMNI franchise conversation is let's defer to the Senate. So, sabi ni Gutierrez, since we already submitted the committee report, the detention order will now come down to the Secretary General of the Congress. It is a special circumstance because there's a pending detention order here, and there's another one in Senate for a hearing that is actually continuing. If you take a look at us, we're done with the hearing on franchise revocation, meaning tapos na. Paparevoke na nila yung SMNI. Baka mas appropriate na yung detention orders with the Senate. So they're passing it. Parang everyone is, in one way, they're passing it to Rizal Ontiveros, right? So, let's see. In the meantime naman, ang Philippine National Police naman sabi nila na they're ready to assist the Senate in terms of arresting Kiboy. So, in a press conference sa Camp Crame kanina, sinabi ng Philippine National Police spokesperson, si Colonel Jean Fajardo, na the assistance the PNP can give is for security only, as the Senate House have their own sergeant-at-arms offices para implementahan itong warrant of arrest once, mukhang hindi lang if, once it's issued. So ayon kay Fajardo, but in my coordination po with the Directorate for Plans, dahil nasa kanila po yung Legislative Action Committee po natin, they'll be the one to be notified in case there's an official request. So in short, they'll act as supportive mechanisms dito if ever. Kasi may sariling kakayan naman ng Senado and Kongreso to push for the arrest. Nevertheless, I think more and more people are thinking na eto na, the arrest should happen na this week, or at least the warrant of arrest should be issued this week. So all of these delaying tactics, all of the dragging the feet and all, I don't know. May think lang, yun ang tingin ko sa Pilipinas eh. I mean, it's what I find very sad sa ating bansa is everything is over politicized in a sense that everything is about tends to be about posturing. There's a lot of partisanship. There's a lot of political consideration. There's a lot about ano mangyayari sa aking opisina sa susunod na election. Sino bang ano yun ko. And sometimes you wonder when will come kailan darating yung panahon kung saan talagang yung batas mismo, 'di ba? Like hindi like minsan kahit common sense ka hindi debate ng tao, 'di ba? When will it come na pag more or less klaro, self-evident na something wrong happened, you just follow what's there, right? You just follow what's there. And you come with 10 interpretations of the same law, you come with all of these delaying tactics, or you're waiting essentially for, I don't know, the big guy in Malacanang to make the final decisions on matters like this. Kasi, yun nga, kung ordinaryong tao gumawa ng mali or something, ang bilis. Ang bilis ng kamay ng batas. But once someone influential or big does something, or is accused of doing something, ang daming hanash. Ang daming pasikot-sikot. Ang daming mga drama. I mean, ang tagal na ito, guys. Ang tagal na ito, di ba? Ang tagal-tagal na ito. Ilan, ilang buwan na to, tong issue na ito, di ba? I mean, again, I'm all for due process. I'm all for, kaya nga sabi ko, yung ginagawa ni Digong ng panahon nila na drug war, kaagad, may mga namatay dahil ng laban, ganyan, ganyan. Obviously, that was very suspicious. Due process is very important. And sometimes due process really takes a lot of time. I completely agree with that. But the problem in the Philippines is that you wonder, is it about the wheels of justice or is it about political considerations affecting the direction of the wheels of justice? Yun yung concern ko pagdating sa Philippines. Now, of course, we're not unique. You go to a lot of developing third world countries, I don't know. You have all sorts of similar problems. But sana naman, if we want to call ourselves a functioning democracy, we have to move forward. We have to move forward on this. And as I said, the case of Quiboloy cannot be separated from the ICC issue against the Dutertes. Although in although technically they're totally different cases, and technically speaking, we're talking about totally different potential enforcement mechanisms. One is FBI, one is an international court, one is about abuses within the body, another one is crimes against humanity. So, although technically they're two completely different cases, we know that politically they're very similar cases, right? And one could lead to the other. So if the person of interest on this issue of Senate can get away with it, I'm very doubtful that an ICC issue there'll also be any kind of accountability. And let's be honest, tingnan natin, if you look at all of this, if you look at the long history of, I mean, look at the long history of ang daming investigations na ginawa dyan sa Senado. Sobrang daming investigation na ginawa sa Senado. Nakala niyo mga Farmali investigations, all of this Blue Ribbon Committee, blah, blah, blah. In the end, like, what happened? Honestly, like, what happened with all of them? Sometimes I have a fear, and this is where Riza Ontiveros could be very different. And let's see if Riza Ontiveros will get the kind of support that she needs, because so far everyone else is either passing the buck or hugas kamay or delaying tactics or whatever. But I mean, how many times did hearings in the Senate or Congress and all lead to conviction of someone who would eventually be found guilty of a crime based on evidence and judicial proceedings whereby guilty is established beyond reasonable doubt, beyond the shadow of doubt, right? So, of course, nung panon ni Digong, ang dami mga hanash na ginawa nilang hearings, yung si Harry, yung mga ganyan type people, ginawa nilang, nag-smear sila kay Senator Leila de Lima and all of that. In the end, obvious na wala, political, lang, it was all just a theatrics. It was kangaroo court dynamics, and that's why Leila de Lima eventually was vindicated, right, on so many levels. But look at the other cases whereby mukhang talaga may maling ginawa, ang daming investigation, ang daming na-booking, and in the end, nothing happened. Nagdrama lang iba, nag-faint yung iba. Naalala niyo yung video nung yung sa Nigeria ba yan? Yung, yung in-investigate nila yung corruption case, tapos biglang, kunyari, nag-faint yung guy. Napanood niyo ba yan? Gusto kong tumawa ng, kasi pag makita na, baka matatawa ako ng big time, pero mabait yung mga tao dito, baka. Naalala niyo guys, yung nag-faint siya, Tapos, nagpanic yung mga, nagpanic yung, nagpanic yung mga, andun sa Kongreso ba nila or something. Tapos kinuha yung, ano, tapos di ba, syempre, of course, ang concern is when you're having a seizure or something, you have to make sure na naka-erect yung ano, hindi. Tapos yung pinasok pa nila yung kamay nila, fingers niya dun sa mouth niya just to make sure he doesn't bite his tongue or something. And then mukhang fake talaga yung ginawa niya. So tinatanggal na yung mga kamay. So, I mean, you should have watched that. I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure kung malayo tayo dun sa mga ganyan fourth world dynamics, to be honest about this. So, nakakalungkot lang kasi saan tayo pupulitin, 'di ba? You know, at the rate things are going dito sa Pilipinas, and yun nga, there's always political consideration in every important case. And there's always a lot of theatrics, there's a lot of drama, but at the end of the day, ilan taong kilala natin na high-level politicians, etc., na who are really held accountable for their misdeeds and all. I mean, look at South Korea, which is not a very established democracy, in a sense that it transitioned to democracy almost at the same time as the Philippines, 1988 or 1986, something like that. Right, Argentina way 1988. But anyway, late to mid 1980s then. And look at how many of their presidents were impeached, imprisoned, or more, right? And just tignan mo sa Pilipinas, not even a single high-level official has been held accountable, even if we all know so many things have gone wrong in the Philippines on so many levels. So may seryoso talagang problema. And surprise, surprise, we have another Marcos in Malacanang. And we expect this person to be a purveyor of, or I'm sorry, to be this harbinger of justice and all. Good luck na lang sa atin. So on that note, thank you very much guys. May meeting na kami. Alam niyo na, kailangan natin humabol dyan. German time. Everyone is very ganun dito. So I have to stick there. Pasensya na kung medyo late tayo nag-start signing. Alam ko, konti lang nag-join sa atin today kasi late night starting class natin. But hopefully we can do it a little bit earlier next time. Yun nga, grabe talaga yung time zone dito. 7 hours behind. It's very, very difficult. Mas gusto ko yung 12 hours behind or through 3 to 4 hours behind. But this is very different. But anyways, thank you so much sa lahat mga nag-join sa atin. Hopefully, si Zubiri will make the decision na by tomorrow. If ayaw niya, diwag, and then it will be on him. At least there's a clarity on this issue. Alright, on that note, thank you very much. God bless. And talk to you soon.